Hi, Vindhya. Welcome to warm welcome from Mentors Capital. I hope you're doing fine.
I'm doing great, Anand. Thanks.
All right. So first and foremost, many thanks for making time out and speaking to us about your Canada journey. So maybe to start things off, you could quickly tell us a little bit about your background and what you've done so far.
Okay, very happy to be doing this. And okay, so to tell you a little bit about myself, I've had a very varied background. I studied architecture for my bachelor's, worked as an architect for a little while, and then got very interested in the Teach for India Fellowship. And then I ended up doing the Teach for India Fellowship for 2 years, during which time I got really interested in design thinking and design strategy. And that's when I decided to apply for a course, a postgraduate certificate course in Canada. And that's how I ended up going to Toronto. I was there for about a year and 4 or 5 months. And then I came back to India and I've been working here. And yeah, so that's a quick, recap
Okay,
about
okay.
my background so far.
Absolutely. Good to hear. So you're an architect, as I understand, and a couple of years back, you decided to go study design thinking in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So I think my first question to you is why Canada, right? What was the thought behind? In fact, maybe step back and talk about why apply abroad at all. So
Okay.
what was the thinking behind that? What was the end goal that you had in sight when you were making this application?
Okay. So when I was looking at this goal, right, there's a couple of big questions that we all have to answer in life when we're in our, especially in our mid 20s, early in our life, as we're starting off our journey. So there's the three big questions that I've always thought of are: one is, where you live makes a huge difference to the quality of your life. Two is who your partner is, has a huge impact on your life. And three is, what your career is and what you're going to get into. These are three of the big questions, and one of the questions which you don't really realize is people usually look at the other two, but then they don't realize that where you live also makes a major impact. So I wanted to go to Canada because I'd already heard a bunch about Canada. I had friends there. My mom's friends were there. I had a close relationship already to Toronto before visiting Toronto. So I knew that I wanted to go there, and I went there with the idea of settling there. And to answer these three big questions, I thought everything would be falling in place in that way. But of course, life has its own, ups and downs and turns, and things slightly changed. But when I went in, I was looking at, getting these questions answered. That is, I wanted my career to go in a certain direction. I wanted to live in a particular place, and I was hoping to also have my partner, and things kind of settle over there. So that's how I was looking at Canada.
Very, very nicely put and very candid of you indeed, Vindhya.
Mm-hmm.
But I will follow up with something that you just said, which is you had a clear path at least envisaged for your career.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that you come from the creative field. You're an architect yourself, and design thinking was the course that you chose. But help us understand a little more about the program itself and maybe about design thinking as a career.
Okay. So, design thinking. Okay, I'll tell you first a little bit about why I chose this path itself, and then I'll get deeper into the rest of the questions. So, after architecture, I was thinking that I would probably do a master's in architecture, specialized in maybe say town planning or urban design or landscape. I was just wondering which one to specialize in, and in fact, I went to SEPT University, and I went to like figure out a little more about these programs. But when I started looking into these programs, I started feeling like it's too much of a specialization for me, and I wasn't ready to make that kind of a decision. Do I want to
Mhm.
be a town planner for life? Do I want to like learn so much about this very specific area? And I was wondering, why do I want to do a master's in the first place? Is it because that's the traditional path that we all follow? You do a bachelor's and then you do a master's and then you just specialize. So all of these questions were running in my head, and I was wondering, should I just do an MBA and be broader? So one thing that I wanted to do is to open out more options rather than close in on one specific field. So that's something that I figured out right after, say, working for a year. This was a question that was running in my head. And then as I just took on the Teach for India fellowship thinking that, okay, this is something where I will grow so much as a person as well as be able to contribute to society. And I thought, okay, if at any point in my life I'm going to make a shift from my architecture career, I think this is a good point for me to do that and then get back, is what I thought. But when I was doing the Teach for India fellowship, I had a major aha moment when we had when this design thinking was introduced to us to apply in the fellowship. So I remember the night I got an email about the Be the Change project that we have in Teach for India, and that just outlined. There was an article about design thinking and how you apply it, and I was just like reading through it. I was like, this is exactly everything that I want to do. I want to do work that has social impact. I want to do work that is creative. This is the part of the work that I enjoy the most. Even with architecture, the part that I enjoy the most is the really understanding your clients' requirements, really doing that research and seeing how you can prototype and get something exciting going. But that is like about 10-15% of what we do, and then after that there's a lot that goes into implementation. I identify with being more of a person who just associates with dreaming and ideation and research, and that's the part I wanted to focus more on. So and I love the idea that you can have major social impact by just applying the way a designer thinks to solve problems on the ground. So once I started learning more about design thinking and applying it in the fellowship, I just decided I know that this is what I want to pursue. I started Googling, how can I do this? And then when I started Googling, I found this company called IDEO, which completely inspired me. I was like, wow, what do I need to do to join a company like this? And what do I need to do to work in this kind of a role?
Right.
So once I got to know that, I started like looking into, okay, I know I want to go to Canada. I know I want to do this in my life, in my career. And how do I make both happen? So I already had Canada as the place I want to go and settle in. And now I also know the direction I want my career to head in. So I started to look for courses in design thinking, design strategy in Canada. So that's when I found a few. The another reason behind design thinking and strategy is that I wanted something that's totally adaptable, because we're living in a world where things are changing constantly. And I wanted to, if I'm going to study further, I wanted to do something that is also going to be able to adapt with time. So I felt like, okay, if I learn design thinking, it's a skill that will help me go forward for a long period of time with work. I know that it's something that's adaptable. I know I didn't feel the same way about specializing in architecture, so that's why I felt like, okay, this is for me. And sometimes I think with these things, you have to listen to your intuition, and you have to listen to a bunch of things, and there are so many different factors that just have to align and that just have to feel right for you. So pushing yourself into something that you don't like, I wouldn't recommend that, just because it, like, others are saying it, and there's so many other things going on. My parents were highly confused about all of my decisions that I ended up taking. They were like, are you sure you want to do this? Does this make sense? But then I felt right, and then after that I had the reasoning for it. And because it felt right, and because you want it for yourself, I think it's possible to go ahead and do it like that. And I found only a few courses in Canada which were doing this. One was Strategic Foresight and Innovation at OCAD University, that I applied to, and I really wanted to get into that program. It's a master's program. And then okay, so I'll just tell you the story of what happened next with that.
Absolutely.
So I applied for that program, and we had an interview. And then I thought that I would be getting through that interview and going, and I will be I was very sure that I've cracked it, it's going to happen. But we have to be very careful, because sometimes we can get a little overconfident about like getting certain things. There was just some points in the interview which I thought I'd answered well, but according to them, they were expecting something else. So I didn't get through, and they put me on a wait list. When I asked them for feedback about, what happened, they told me that, hey, we were actually looking for somebody with we find this skill very important. So that's the reason. And then I clarified it, but then they were open to taking me in for the next intake. But I, because it took a little bit of clarification, but by then they had already finalized their intake and they had put me on a wait list, so I couldn't get through to that program. But then I thankfully found, what I would think is even better, which is the program that I did, which is at the Institute Without Boundaries, Interdisciplinary Design Strategy. So this was much more hands-on. It was like we were working on a live project. We were a very small cohort. We were even outnumbered by our faculty. The program itself is designed to be, extremely energizing, extremely hands-on, and like I just learned so much as I did. It wasn't very theory oriented. It was just like doing, and I learned so many skills as I did this, and it was one of, like, I would say it was the best educational experience I've ever had, or ever even heard of, even from others. And sorry, I couldn't hear you.
So that was saying a lot about the program itself.
Yeah.
Right.
So
So
yeah.
just to get a sense of what you're saying here is design thinking seems to be this program that's very millennial, that's very this day and age. And as you rightly put it, it's adaptable to changing world and maybe a changing world order. We've all seen what a pandemic can do to our world. So
Yeah.
surely something that's adaptable is
Yeah.
definitely not. But just to understand that a little bit, so is design thinking a course that's suited to people from all backgrounds, or does one need to have a creative, at least field of study or an interest in the creative field when you apply for design thinking?
Okay. So design thinking itself, there's so much to it. You can apply design thinking wherever you are. There are short programs also. There is, you get like 3-week courses. There's also like free online courses if you're interested in just learning design thinking and adding it to your regular skill set, no matter who you are. Maybe you're working in IT, maybe you're working as a mechanical engineer, you're doing something. I think design thinking is something you can always add on to absolutely everything. So that's why even right now, I will be working with a university where design thinking is going to be a 2 credit subject across all, across all courses, across all engineering courses, architecture course, law, humanities. It's going everywhere. I'm going to be helping with designing the curriculum and delivering, the 2 credit course across everything. So that
Okay.
is like, that's where design thinking is right now. And you can have it, you can there's so many different levels of learning design thinking and how to apply it. So the if you want to like take it on as your career, what it actually entails is there are so many different areas and parts of it. You
Okay.
can become a user researcher, which is the early part of the design thinking process itself. You can make a career out of that,
Okay.
out of becoming, say, a user experience researcher. Or you can become a UX strategist or a user experience person. Totally, you can get into, like, say, wireframing, and like there's also service design, designing how something would work from beginning to end, kind of almost designing the business model and every little bit of it. Or you could even get into the later part of it, which is the user interface design. So there's like technical aspects to it, there's a more generic aspect to it. There's multiple different titles, job titles, that you can take on if you take on design thinking. There's like a foresight team. A lot of companies these days, the big ones at least, are starting to have innovation labs. They are starting to get a group of people together. They've got, like, a, say, a product manager, a UX designer, user researchers, and all of these people. And then they're looking at what are we going to be doing 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, and how can we design those things. Say, for example,
Okay.
even if you take Swiggy, it started off as a just food delivery, and now they've expanded into doing what Dunzo does, and then they've expanded into Instamart groceries. So basically they already have the infrastructure for they have delivery personnel, and then they can they have everything that they need to get anything from point A to point B. So what that thing is what they're, like, also like expanding into. So the innovation team would be I don't know about Swiggy, but I'm just like giving you an example. So the innovation team would be looking at, hey, what can we do 5 years down the line? What else can we do? So like coming up with new things and doing the research on what people really need, identifying needs, identifying insights, bringing that back, prototyping, coming up with ideas, testing it out, doing a bit of A/B testing, seeing whether things work. So those are the kind of things that would most probably happen in innovation labs. And then once you have the idea, it's like a baby, you're getting it to grow a little bit, and then you put it out into the real world and see how it works out, because you don't just test out ideas in a big scale, you test it out in a small way and see how it works. So yeah, so if you take on design thinking, there's design strategy, there's design research. If you go into this with a design background, you already understand what, like, the whole idea of design thinking is applying the way a designer thinks
Mhm.
in like the real world, in doing anything else, not just in the traditional modes of design. So being a with a design background, you bring that into design thinking with whatever your background is. If you have a teaching background, you take that, and then you see it's just something that you add on as a layer to absolutely anything that you're doing,
Okay.
whatever your core field is.
Okay.
So
So
yeah,
So in a nutshell, what you're telling me is that it doesn't matter what background you come from.
yeah,
At the very least, you can add design thinking as part of your broader portfolio. Alternatively, you can probably choose that as your career itself, and there are many, many options therein. Right? Did I get that
absolutely.
right?
Yeah, that's right. And if you're interested in design thinking, there are many free courses, short courses, online courses. You can just learn and apply it already without doing a whole course.
Wonderful.
But if you do an entire course, just understanding which part of the process you're most interested in and where you would like to specialize and say be a part of a product or
Okay.
service team doing that, you could like look into that.
Okay, understood, understood. Okay, so maybe I understand better why you chose design thinking now.
Mhm.
But I mean, there's still something that rankles, right? Why choose to do a postgraduate certificate program? I mean, we in India typically are from the safe mindset where a degree course is better than a diploma course, and a certificate, or a certificate program. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, what was running in your mind when you were choosing which course to apply to? Was it purely dependent on availability, or was
Mhm.
there some deeper research that went into this choice?
For me, it was just the availability. It was the course itself. I didn't look at what the course. A lot of people are very careful about, what degree you get. What can you write a master's in your resume? Can you
Right.
can you do these things? And also, of course, it comes with its differences. The difference between a postgraduate certificate and a master's is if you want to apply for a like if you are looking to have a work permit right after with a postgraduate certificate, they're typically around 9 months, 8 to 12 months. You've got postgraduate certificate courses that will give you a work permit of 1 year, or
Yep.
like almost like sometimes it'll give you 8 months to 1 year. That's the work permit that you get a equal amount of time of a work permit. But if you do a master's program for 2 years, you get a 3-year work permit right after that. That said, it doesn't mean that if you do a postgraduate certificate, you can't get a longer work permit. You can still apply for your PR. You can still get it done. You can, for your PR, even your work, like previous work experience, everything is valid. You still can. It's just that it's like probably a little easier with a master's degree to do that. That said, in my field, what I've noticed, especially with my friends from my program, who some of us, my program is designed so that it's a postgraduate certificate which can be upgraded to a master's degree. So because I studied in George Brown College, which is not yet a university, I think they are looking to become a university itself, but they are a college, so they do offer postgraduate certificate programs. It's very hands on, so they're really like preparing you more for work immediately, how to apply things more practically. So many times in masters, there's a thesis, there's more theory, there's more all of that which you probably can't with the skills which you probably won't use as much when you go into work, but this is more like work focused. So that's one of the differences I saw. Especially most courses in colleges are designed to help you get ready for work and be completely practically applying that. Even when I went to Canada, the idea behind doing the course itself was that I would be able to easily integrate into work but if I do a course, I'll be able to, connect with a community, and then, do the course. And of course, there's a big difference between masters and postgraduate certificate programs in terms of the money that you're spending. There is, postgraduate certificate programs are much cheaper than master programs. So it depends. It depends on the field. For me, I found only two courses at that time which were offering design thinking, and one was a postgraduate and the other one was a master's program. So since that masters didn't work out, I went for the postgraduate certificate program.
Right.
And yeah, it did work out much cheaper than the master's program also for me. I spent, it was for me, for an international student, it was $23,000, which comes up to about 11.5 lakhs. And
Right.
yeah.
Wonderful. So what you're telling us is that both of them are equally applicable if you're looking at, settling down in Canada, or finding yourself gainful employment. But I
Hmm.
think the difference lies in terms of the approach that you take and the course itself, right? And what it sort of sets out within the course. So if anybody is listening in, do your research well, find out more about the program and its structure, and also about the possible outcomes after the course. Right? Does that
Yes.
make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. So we touched upon cost. I think it's a very, very important factor for people from India, because I think the consideration is always that even if I am looking to settle down in a foreign country, I would like to invest as less as possible at the very start, right? So
Yeah.
so maybe from that perspective, a postgraduate certificate or a diploma might be more suited. But help us make this comparison a little better. So you said your certificate course was costing you around 11.5 lakhs.
Yeah.
Typically, how would a master's compare? Because you applied to one as well.
Yeah.
So what
So
would,
that was closer to, at that time, I think it was about $35,000
okay, okay,
compared to $23,000.
okay. So
So
a
that was
significant
closer to
difference.
20 lakhs. Yeah.
Correct. So the 20,
37-ish, I think it was. So yeah, it was closer to 20 lakhs. This was closer to 10 lakhs. It was like 60% of that cost in that sense.
right,
And
right.
what I have found is people from both programs have been able to get work, similar work.
Okay, okay.
Um, and work-wise, I have friends who have upgraded the degree to a master's. The way my program works is that you do a postgraduate certificate program, and you
Mhm.
can do a thesis and upgrade it to a master's program by doing this with another university in Ireland, which is tied up with my university, with George Brown College.
Right.
So
So that's
yeah.
the way that you get a master's
Yeah,
degree.
that's the way that I can actually get a master's if I do a thesis, if I choose to do that. That's another 6 lakhs for me to upgrade to a master's, and it would be that I will have to go to Ireland for sorry. Yeah. I'll have to go to Ireland for about 2 weeks and do a little bit of pre-work, and then I can do the rest of the program from anywhere in the world. From what I saw, friends who have done the masters in my program and friends who have not done their masters, both have been able to land very similar jobs. So I felt like it's probably not doing too much of a difference
Yeah.
in that sense. So unless you like to have that master's word in your resume. But I think in terms of employment, they're looking at your portfolio, especially if you're a designer, looking at the portfolio, looking at your aptitude, looking at how well you can do the job. Have you done other things? They're looking at your skills and what you can bring in. So that's valued so much more than your exact degree itself. Yeah.
Okay. So you talked about this comparison in terms of tuition costs, right? But for somebody going looking to study in Canada and eventually settle down there, what kind of other expenses is someone looking at, right? Besides just the tuition, obviously there's rent, and there's accommodation, there's food, but
Yeah.
is there some major expense head that we are missing out?
Yeah, I think you covered it. The big expenses are the mainly the tuition and the rent. Rent is also quite expensive, especially if you're living in Toronto or in like any of these big cities. It is expensive. You have, of course, choices. You can choose to live a little further away from downtown, or live in a smaller accommodation. Live as a bunch of friends take up something and then they split it and things like that. But roughly you at least when I was there, it was at least $700 a month. to have a room. That was the minimum that I was looking at, which was a little further away from downtown is as well. Then later on, I got to do a situation with a friend who was who got a studio and who could share it and things like that. So but it is something that is a big expense. And then one expense that people don't realize is clothes. So you are going to have to like invest in a bunch of clothes, because it does get cold. Winter comes in, everything changes. You have to have a good winter jacket. You need like a few layers. You need good boots. You need all these things, and a good winter jacket is like $300-$400. And then or maybe you can get something cheaper, but I wanted something that would last. I could wear it for the next 3-4 years at least through the winters. So I wanted a good down jacket. So, and even with discounts, it just comes up to that much. And like just getting all of these things, right? Like this, the clothes just ended up being a slightly bigger expense. Not that I'm like all about like having too many clothes, but it's just the layers that you need to wear. You don't realize just getting dressed takes half an hour during the winter, because you need to have a scarf, you need to have a toque, you need to have the winter jacket, you need to wear your boots, and you need to like get out and go. Transportation. Toronto is like really well connected. The TTC system is great. You can get like a pass for about $100, 120 or something like that, for the entire month. So it's like, I think $3 for any trip one way. You can go just for 1 kilometer. You can go 20 kilometers. It's just $3. So that's just how it works. But yeah, you can get a pass and you can do that. And yeah, just food, accommodation, and travel, and clothes, and
Mhm.
anything else that you would like to add on in case you do want to buy a new laptop, or you need something else personally in terms of your school material, in terms of those things. Those are the extra expenses. Once in a while, of course, you should have some money to be able to go out with your friends and spend that time hanging out, because that's a very important thing to do, to create that community and have fun with your friends and go out, whether it's like having a party at your own place or this thing. But make sure you build a community and have invest in friendships when you move to a new country.
Right. Interesting that you say that. I mean, we've been talking about the various small little expenses that you're going to get into, but I think the more important thing is, how did you, for example, fund your education? Did you apply for an education loan? Did you apply for any scholarships? And when you got there, did you also work part time to make some money? So what was the experience like, and what do students typically do, right? Because is
Hmm.
working part time something that happens regularly in Canada? Is it lucrative as well?
Mm-hmm. Okay. A lot of it depends on your background, where you're coming from, your financial situation at home, the course that you're taking up, how expensive that is, the kind of hours that your course demands, how much free time you have. There's so many different factors that affect this decision.
Mhm.
All of these things, all of everything that you said is something that happens, that's possible. In my case, I'll talk to you about my case, and I'll also tell you about a little bit more about these things. So in my case, my program was extremely extensive. I would be in college from 9 in the morning, sometimes till 11 or 12 in the night, because we would have a lot of work. We would have a lot of group work, we would have assignments, we would have things to submit, and it was just like, heavy. I wasn't able to, if I was going to work, it would only be, say, during the weekends, and in that time, I'll have to say, probably I needed that time to prepare for the rest of the week. I needed one day off, and then I also needed to like prepare for the rest of the week. And I was very fortunate to have my parents fund my education. It was also not too expensive. 10 lakhs was something that they were anyway ready, and they were thinking that, okay, I will do masters sometime, and they had saved up for me. So I'm very fortunate to have that. So I had that, and other expenses were also okay. I did work part time a little bit in college when things got a little bit relaxed. There were opportunities in college itself, in-house in college. Somebody was doing a PhD and a fun experiment. I got to work with an amazing chef and put out a beautiful experiment around a long table, and I got to learn a whole bunch of recipes, cook and put it out, and have I had the funnest time. I would have done it for free, but I got paid for it. And I got to do these kind of things when things got a little bit relaxed, and I saw these opportunities come up. There are many opportunities to earn extra money in the college itself. As part of there are many student communities. There are many different types of part-time roles, which can be fun, which can be light, which where you can earn money, say you have the time during the program. There are also opportunities outside of college. There are multiple such opportunities. It is there. It's available. It is possible. I know people who have, worked part time and made things happen. Even in my course, even with the hectic course that I had, um, I had friends who were working through the weekend. They would work full time through the week, and I had friends who worked full days on Saturdays and Sundays, and I don't know how they powered through it, but they did. And it's possible. If you need to, you can make anything happen. Financial aid, I did apply for financial aid as well. I couldn't immediately as soon as I joined, but in the first semester, I was looking out for how can I get a scholarship, what can I do. I did see that in the George Brown College website, that there were options for applying for different types of financial aid. So I applied for something, and I got a scholarship of $2,000 of my next semester. So I did get that also. So I just had to write an essay, just outlining. Also, I performed well in my first semester. That is that they look at that as well. So looking at how well you perform, what kind of a student you are, and they may get some feedback also from faculty, and they're also looking at your background, where you're coming from, and why do you deserve the aid of
Any
all the
idea?
students who are applying. So then they
Got
give it to you.
Any idea how many students in your batch, in your cohort availed of or got a scholarship?
Yeah, so I was one of very few international students, and I availed this international student scholarship, this thing that was there. I know of others who I had a friend who had applied for a PR, and then she was doing the program after she got her PR. So
Oh,
students in Canada, their fee was $13,000. So international students is 23,000, and the local fee is way cheaper. And she got a huge scholarship. Even my other friend, like two, three of them, got a good scholarship,
okay,
with almost half off, I would say, something like
right.
that.
Also,
So
also
they
international students getting
one,
50%.
they were not. They were local, because they even though that friend was an international. I mean, she's from Bangladesh. She moved there and she got a PR. So she's if you have a PR, you're almost a citizen. So you are considered like that in terms of your fee and everything. So if it's possible for you to get a PR and then do a course, in case you're looking at like a really expensive course, if you're doing an MBA or something, it's like $100,000 or something,
Mm,
ridiculously expensive, then you can possibly, like, see if you can avail a local fee instead of an international fee. But most
mm,
people who try to go to Canada are first, looking to study and then get a PR after that, and add that education to help get the PR. So
right,
yeah.
right. Makes sense. Makes sense what you're saying.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, I think I have a broad understanding of your postgraduate experience.
Hmm.
Uh, a lot of what you say today does have a lot of implications for students back in India who are looking to apply to Canada. Any last piece of advice, any message you want to leave with for the students aspiring to be in Canada?
Okay. I would say just be optimistic and go for it and do everything that you can. To one, it's such a beautiful, exciting place. You will never feel like you are an outsider in Canada, especially in Toronto and places. It's so diverse. You get exposure to so many different cultures. I would encourage students to make friends of all different cultures. One thing that we as Indians, we tend to do is we stick to other Indians. We do try to stick to that. But then there's so much richness and beauty that you get from making friends from different cultural backgrounds, and you do have the opportunity and the exposure to do that. So make friends, build a community for yourself. These are the things that really help your mental health and help you really settle and integrate into society anywhere abroad.
Okay.
So yeah, I would say that
Okay.
that's just
Okay.
something
Okay.
that
Sounds good.
helps. Yeah.
So your message seems to be more for somebody who's already, in Canada or already
Oh, okay.
decided and got through the process. What about
Okay.
somebody who's sitting in Canada trying to make this choice, sitting back in India, trying to
Mhm.
make this choice? Okay, how do I decide where to go? Where should I, study? And so any piece of advice on that will make his or her life simpler?
I'd say like you're already part of Mentors Capital if you're watching this video. So, or like you've come across this or something. Connecting with people is key. I'd say networking, understanding. You want to know if you're confused, go out and explore everything. Ask people questions if you're wondering which course to do. And if you have, say, 5 options, 7 options, talk to people who are doing all of those different 7 options. Things get clearer and clearer the more you talk to people and the more you explore. Something will like pull you, and will, your instincts will kick in that, yes, this is something that really excites me. So go with that, talk to more people, talk to as many people as you can, and get as much clarity before you jump into something. Get as much clarity, and also feel deeply about it, and then you can totally charge and
Sounds
go forth
great.
with that. Yeah.
Sounds great. Lovely message that. And so thanks for making time today, Vindhya. I wish you all the best. And I certainly hope that after seeing this video, plenty of people back home will sort of try to connect with you
Mhm.
and discuss your experience and their sort of thoughts and aspirations.
Okay,
Uh,
yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for I think everything that you're doing with Mentors Capital is so needed. This is exactly what's needed for everyone. And thank you also for your time. I'm happy to connect with anyone. Preferably, I'll try to group people together and talk to them together, because that's what's happened in the past. And yeah, so let's see
Sounds
how
good.
things go. And all the
Sounds good.
best, everyone. Just like you can do anything. Like there's so many times some things I would only have dreamt of, back in India. I was just thinking that, oh, it would be a dream to do this. But remember that you can actually make any dream come true. It's
Mhm.
totally possible to work towards it and make anything happen. And
Mhm.
no constraint is actually a real constraint. There are workarounds, and there are ways to make anything happen, be it financial, be it anything. It's possible. Yeah,
That's a
I've seen
positive,
others do it.
inspirational thought for all our aspirants out there.
Yeah.
So thanks for that and have a great day.
Thank you so much. You too. Have a lovely day.